How are you?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, DDA board members. Today is Tuesday, July 12th at 4:00 p.m. at a regularly scheduled Downtown Development Authority meeting. Public officials with us in attendance: Assistant City Manager and Finance Director, Ms. Chelsea Pesta, Assistant City Manager, Scott Schrader, Police Chief, Paul Shakinis, and Deputy Chief of Police, Ms. Heather Kolke. DDA Chairman, Mr. Blair, I'd like to turn it over to you.
All rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Amin, Smith, Ackley, Allen,
Here.
Blair,
Here.
Easter, Lublin,
Here?
Marshall,
Here.
Michigan, Millen,
Here.
McDonald,
Here.
Smith. Chairman Blair, we have a quorum.
Yes. Any requests for agenda changes? Okay. I need somebody to make a motion for the approval of the minutes from the June 14th meeting.
I'll make the motion for approval of minutes.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any audience correspondence?
No correspondence, and if there are any audience members with us in attendance who would like to address the board, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. If you are attending electronically, please press star 9 to raise your hand and star 6 to unmute. I believe Mr. Michigan is joining us now. I will add him to our attendance. But I don't see any. Oh, and Miss Amin has arrived as well. I will also add her. Thank you.
And Mr. Michigan just joined in.
Yes. But no public participants at this time.
Okay. Unfinished business. Anything to address?
No.
New business. Let me talk about a couple of things before we get into the discussion about bylaws. For unfinished business, I will report to you that Ms. Jakeway and I have a meeting scheduled with the real estate agent Randy Thomas with Insight Thursday to begin a plan for marketing the property, 6.45 acres. Of the formerly, well, it's a school property still. It was a school area and training area and various things. So with that scheduled meeting, we will determine what the city's role and what the DDA's role and what the planning division's roles it will be in the future. Some of you may recall that in 2019, we had joint meetings with the Planning Commission, the DDA, and the City Council to discuss the issues of rezoning that particular parcel because it's very significant. I think you leave here today thinking about when that meeting, that joint meeting happens yet again. We would like to, staff would like to have a meeting, a joint meeting with everyone sometime after we've met with Mr. Thomas to help him market. But particularly important will be the zoning of that. Some of you are involved with real estate and you know that zoning is pretty important when you're buying a piece of property. If it's difficult to get the zoning you want, you can't do what you want with it. So we'll be calling for a joint meeting, not today, but I want to mention it today for the first time. Our council meeting for July has been canceled. Some members have other things that they need to take care of, summertime, different kinds of activities. So the next council meeting, unless we call a special meeting, next council meeting will be in August. That doesn't mean a whole lot of work is not going to go on between now and August, especially with that parcel downtown. But the school's looking to move forward and market the property, and as is necessary, Mr. Thomas will be meeting with us to find out exactly what the rules are in 2022, if anything's changed. But we will be supporting, staff will be supporting their marketing efforts. We've done that in the past with a couple other properties, with this DDA leading on that. The DDA, that's part of our downtown. The districts are a little different, but again, it's all about businesses. So the DDA members should be paying attention. Mr. Blair, Chairman Blair, your parcel is right next door, so what goes there could affect your business and everything, but it affects Wall Lake as well. So we'll be calling for a special meeting, and any input from any of you is welcome, and we'll report back on what the meeting goes with Mr. Thomas for marketing.
Wait 1 second, I want to add on to that.
Sure,
I talked
sure.
to Randy earlier today in anticipation of this, and the complete package has been sent to the state. He's still waiting on the approvals from the state, but he sees the light at the end of the tunnel, which it's been a long, long tunnel, and the only two restrictions that he sees are that no well can be dug and no basements. But that'll be part of the property, and you're getting together with the city and working with us is exactly what he wants to do. He sees 30, 60, maybe 90 days that he's ready to put his package out to the would-be developers. So just wanted to share that as well.
What's it zoned at currently?
I'm sorry?
What's the current zone?
It was zoned for schools. So what it means is we have to rezone it. We have to, but we can call it, when I say we, meaning input from DDA. DDA doesn't do the zoning. Ultimately, it relies with the council members and what the zoning will be. But what the best zoning would be, whether it's residential or commercial or mixed, certainly not industrial, but so we're probably talking about some sort of a mixed zoning. We know what that means. You're downtown by some areas that people debate what should be zoned, your particular home. So this is a big area, 6.5 acres. It's the last one we've got that's of any significant size. So I think that's up for grabs, whatever the council as a body feels like it ought to be. That's how they vote. And I think input from members of the DDA, business owners, and Planning Commission will be involved, and somebody will invoke the reasons not to zone it or whatever, but there's always somebody on, no matter what side you take, there's somebody on the other side. So somebody will want it all commercial, somebody will want it all residential, somebody will want to make it a park. We have that all the time. They want the city or the DDA to buy it and make it a park. That's a grandiose idea. You could do that, but it's not likely that that's ever going to happen. So we have to deal in reality, what's really going to happen. The school is going to sell it. If I'm in charge of the school board, I'm going to lead it to the best bidder. And the best bidder will be probably commercial in terms of that. But we'll see how it goes. Everybody's going to have input, including members of the board, planning, and city council. Ultimately, city council makes the call.
Okay.
So, and having said that, we will be back with you on setting up a meeting and see if I want to run that by all the council members and see when that's, we're talking about filling the room up perhaps with, we avoid all these other issues, COVID or whatever, but we need to have a discussion with everybody involved like we did in 2019. So that being said, that would be actually new business, so that's all I've got for now for the new business. I'm going to report on some updates, and I'll let, when you think that's appropriate, we'll move ahead with updates. I'll
Move ahead.
Well, Ms. Jakeway, you can start with, skip over bylaws for now. Give us a quick update on Decker Road, where we are.
Sure. So if you go down Decker Road, you'll notice most of the all of the orange barrels have been removed. They just recently finished striping the road. But we're very pleased with the contractors and their work on Decker Road. It's definitely made an improvement into our gateway, into downtown, but also into Walled Lake. So we're very happy to have that project complete.
Update on the Mercer Beach project.
With the help of our Department of Public Works, we were able to open the beach in a timely fashion before our summer festival on June 25th. So I'd like to thank DPW and their staff for preparing the beach and making it accessible for the public to use. It was very full on the summer festival. It was a great turnout. But the Mercer Beach improvements, the underground work has been complete, and we were able to have the parking lot paved that same week before the summer festival. So we're glad we were able to get that done.
Great turnout. Update on the Pontiac Trail resurfacing.
We are still waiting from the county. That is a county project using the tri-party funds. We have not yet received a start date on when they're going to be doing the resurfacing, but however, they have been working along Pontiac Trail on the Wixom side and in Walled Lake to adjust some of the curbing, but we haven't received a start date yet.
Do they work on the sewer crocks yet?
That would have to ask our Department of Public Works. He would be a little bit more informative of that.
Okay.
He would be here, but he had a serious golf engagement today.
Good for him. I like it. And an update on the farmer's market?
Sure. So we are approaching our 11th week of the market tomorrow. I'd like to shout out our management intern, Miss Kaylee Hall. She has been doing a tremendous job of not only assisting me, but also assisting the vendors on site. She's been helping me with the social media posts, but also organizing a couple of summer events that we've been having at the market. For example, last month, June 29th, we had a summer festival in which we were able to bring out one of our vendors and his barbecue food truck. It was a really good turnout. We were also able to invite a local musician to have some live entertainment for the folks who were visiting. So that was a really good turnout to bring folks in, but also to have something for the kids to do as well post school. We're looking to do something similar again this month at the end of July 27th. We're going to be doing inviting a small petting zoo out, having the food truck out again. We weren't able to secure the local musician. He'll be out of town, but we're looking to do kind of continue a kind of like a monthly event to bring folks down, but also bring some encouragement to Walled Lake. But it's been really good turnout so far. We've increased our vendor participation. I'd like to also shout out Ms. Kaylee Hall. She has been doing a tremendous job of administering it, bringing folks in, organizing, being responsive. We're averaging, I want to say, anywhere between maybe 17 to 20, 15 to 20 on a good weather day. So it's been really good, and the response has been great so far.
Let me add, this is a time to invite the coffee truck to that event. If we can get the coffee truck out of the corner that it's hidden in and get it over to event, they're more than welcome to bring it over coffee and donuts if you got it cooking.
I'm working on it, man.
It's just an
Trying to
invitation.
find
It's just, we have parking
I feel
over
like
here
I'm
at the
building a
event.
store.
It's an invitation.
No, as soon as it's done, I'd love to get it over there.
No, it was a big success to a lot of people already. It did seem to get some people's attention, so you're more than welcome to partner with the farmers market on those days and sell a little coffee. We don't have too many vendors selling coffee, do we?
No.
In addition, the public safety campus expansion, the parking lot is working beautifully. You know, the layout, ingress, egress, I've noticed that, and I heard from one of the vendors, Great Harvest, that, really is seeing there's a nice change, and it's, you guys are doing a great job.
The bridge isn't open yet, right, from the trail?
Not yet.
When do you think the bridge will open?
We're working on getting that in shape to open up rather than we declare it. There's a couple of reasons that we haven't done that. One of it's not ready when you cross the bridge. I mean, legally, we only recently got the final paperwork to own the trail, where the city owns it. If you recall, The trail was purchased from the railroad companies. When they abandoned the rail line, we call it the railroad company, but it was a company that bought railroad lines and then took state money in various states throughout the country to turn them into rails to trails. So we're talking about $1 million purchase, but it was purchased by the three entities. You had Commerce Township, you had Wall Lake, and you had the city of Wixom. So two cities purchased it, and Commerce Township joined us in. Well, because of the issues and how it's administered and how it's done, the city council decided to withdraw from that agreement, which was allowed under the original consolidation agreement. So our mutual agreement ended when the council voted to withdraw, so that the city actually owns the property. Through the years, I was here when the purchase went through, when they were doing the negotiations. There's just a whole lot of money involved, a whole lot of things that, let's say, our community wouldn't have supported. Spending the millions of dollars to put the bridge over 5 wouldn't have been something that a whole lot of people in this community would vote for. Some of you remember, we talked about, we actually put to ballot a vote for the trail. Anybody remember that?
I do.
That failed. So the people in our community support something different, a modest trail. We will own that as soon as the final paperwork is done. We have the drafts in my office being reviewed by staff and lawyers and everything like that. So we will finally own it. And once that's signed off and we've got the decorative arrangement, then we will open that up and we will have that as an event. The DDA is a big player in that as well, as we all know. And so we will call that event, and it will be sometime soon. It will be this summer. So we'll let you know when that goes. I'm hoping, again, Mr. Ladd had a serious golfing event, or he would give you more of an update. Did I mention that he plays golf? I don't know. Yeah, and he's not here because he's playing golf. Okay.
I like golf.
Huh?
I like golf.
You play golf? Yeah.
I like it.
We have a couple of people in the room play golf. Chief plays golf, but not very well. The chief plays golf, but not very well.
Mr. McDonald is the ringer.
Well, no, I took a vote with my staff when we weren't going to let Mr. Ladd take off to play golf, but after talking with staff, they all agreed, based on watching him swing, that he needed the practice. So he was granted the rest of the day to practice his swing.
We like that.
Yes.
Report on the aftermath of the summer festival.
Sure. So June 25th, we had our summer festival. The city has since retired our beach party, beach days event. We, as a city, are here to support the Walled Lake Civic Fund and the other businesses in our downtown district. It was a really good turnout, which started off a little more casual during the beginning of the day, but as the fireworks celebration got near around dusk, the beach, East Walled Lake Drive, the lot across the beach, all up and down East Walled Lake Drive was completely full, shoulder to shoulder, packed, very good turnout. No major complaints or issues. The event ran smoothly. So I'd like to thank our public safety for being on site and providing that service. But it was a really good turnout after a few years of not having our summer festival. But it was a really good turnout. We're looking to partner with the Walled Lake Civic Fund moving forward and creating more of a bigger event in the future years. But in response to the construction that was happening, we did have to scale it back just a little bit. But with the DDA support, we did bring out a bounce house for the kids to use during the day, which was well utilized, and we had some food trucks out as well.
And a dunk tank.
Yes, and a dunk tank supported by the Civic Fund, which I believe got some good. They were able to raise some more additional funds for the fireworks.
I think the Walled Lake Civic Fund has been a tremendously positive force for our city. They really have.
Mr. Johnson does a
great
good
job.
Mr. Chairman, let me add to that. The Civic Fund led this festival, and we made that decision for, as Ms. Chakeway said, because we had the construction and we weren't going to engage a whole lot of activities and then not be able to do it. We weren't sure. We literally got it right down to the wire. Thank goodness for Public Works doing their effort, and the contractor getting it all done literally in the last few days. And during the event, the police department deserves a shout out in terms of being there, being on site, their presence with the boots on the ground. It really keeps people calm. It was shoulder to shoulder by the time, and I think most of you were there. I know Mithla was there. My family was there. They did a great job. I think we had only one arrest, and it was afterward up on the hill, and it was an irate girlfriend thing. And and it had nothing to do, it had something to do with other things. But we didn't have any of the activity that can go with those kind of events, so we did real well. And we believe that had to do with the police presence. So the police did a good job. They interacted with the people, but at the same time, they're the police, and the folks knew that. So we did really well. Those two groups of people, the Public Works, without them, it wouldn't have been as much of a success. The chief and his team kept us safe, and the fire department was there. In case something happened, we had a couple of little events where people were feeling a little queasy. We got through all of that, so no big events. It was a great event, and we're pleased that it went as well as it did. We were worried about it, internally we're going, okay, is this going to go? But it did go. This might be the time just to tell you that Phase 2 is going to be delayed of the beach. Since we're mentioning that Phase 2 is going to be delayed, the bids came in for Phase 2, and they're astronomical.
Wow.
Yes, I'll give that next report. It won't be until August, but we will not be proceeding on Phase 2 until we make an adjustment on how we approach that. Funding that based on what we had estimated is not possible. So Phase 2, what you got, we're probably going to do little pieces of work, things we need to improve. It looks great, but there's some activity we need to make sure that we got covered. Access to the beach by vehicle exists. We don't want that happening, so we're going to take a look at how to do that a little cheaper than what the bids were. They were crazy. They were just one of them was over $300,000 more than we estimated, and yeah, that gets your attention. So that's going to be delayed until we get another plan, and I'll be taking that to the City Council as a body to talk about how we proceed with Phase 2. So that's not going to start next week. Might as well talk about downtown. At the last meeting, you all know that led by Acting Chairman Millen, we proceeded with pursuing a grant to redo East Wall Lake Drive. If that goes, that's going to be a great improvement downtown in terms of matching up with what they're going to do on Pontiac. So if we get that done. And also it may be appropriate now to talk about, we had a complaint from business owners downtown. A business owner complained that there was no ADA access on certain areas in downtown. The American Disabilities Act requires certain activity be given to those who are disabled, moving upon sidewalks. That applies to communities or businesses or whatever that have 50 or more employees. In our case, we have more than 50 employees in the city, so we may have to comply. The federal government and all the people associated with Michigan came down, and those of you who were down there might have seen them walking and surveying, and so it looks like that within 60 to 90 days we'll have a report back. We may have to redo sidewalks downtown. That means that what that means to me as a manager and executive director is that we'll have to propose a special assessment district to assess the businesses down there to pay for what we believe will be pretty astronomical costs to do what they may require us to do. The complaint came that the city hadn't put in sidewalks for the disabled, and that's true, but those sidewalks as a legal matter, we've never ever changed those sidewalks. The businesses own the sidewalks, at least half of them, and in part along certain areas there. But they came in, and not only did they survey the area there, but they were all over Pontiac Trail. They were measuring the buttons was too high. Ms. Jakeway led them through the process, so we got that feedback. But when they come back and they order that done, that's going to cost a lot of money, and we don't believe, staff doesn't, and some elected officials don't believe that the people in Tri-A or Chestnut Hills should be paying to redo the sidewalks for the business areas. So we're talking about a special assessment district. The sidewalks that we did on, this board supported sidewalks on Decker, and you did that with the premise of that it's something you could do as a DDA because it's the gateway to our cities. But those costs, Mr. Schrader, you know, I know what it costs, a couple of $100,000 just for those.
$250,000, yeah.
Yeah, $250,000 to the sidewalks, and that's not necessarily comparable. If you start doing sidewalks downtown, what's underneath, the acquisition of property, we're talking about a whole lot of dollars and a whole lot of special assessments for those people who own the property down there. But there's no other way to do it. When the federal government comes in and says you're going to do that, they could go in and get a court order. So we're looking at some issues. We believe that it should be assessed against the businesses. Those of you who have businesses there, that may not sound attractive, but that becomes a reality when the feds come back with their report. And you can bet that they will give us a report, and they lean in that direction. So we're going to have to do something in the future. It probably be sooner than later, so we'll be bringing that back to the board. Special assessment district is not something anybody likes.
Two things.
But we were not going to be able to pay for any of that out of DDA funds, and we just don't have the money now. That's not what we plan to do, and we certainly aren't going to be able to pay for it out of the general fund. So it's going to be a special assessment.
Was it a citizen or a business that
It was
this?
a business, was a family member of the business owners. It was the family member of the bakery. They complained, it's a city, the bakery.
So if you do because I'm not familiar with special assessment districts, they have to pay that, correct? They can't say, oh, I'm not paying it. It has to be paid if it's ordered by
Yes,
the city.
they will
Okay.
assess
Attached
the
to the
property, and if you don't pay, they
attached to the
foreclose on your property.
Put a lien on
You'll have
the
to pay.
property.
Right.
Well,
The lien just is only in place if they sell it, is when the lien takes effect,
The
right?
special assessment goes on the tax
It'll go on the
Yeah,
tax roll.
there's no assessment until, the assessment would be, first of all, that has to be voted on. The city council is
Right.
going to have to decide that. If the city council, and there's been cases where the city council won't impose that. Well, guess who does that next? The court. You know, the court can impose, anything. So it becomes a tax, so it'll be on your tax bill. So then, but then what you think of as a legislative body is, okay, how do we tax that? Do we tax it over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, And you'll see special assessment districts which don't necessarily offend people. Some homeowners association will go to their local entity and say, look, our roads are really rough. We know they're not going to happen. So we want you to do a special assessment for our streets alone, and then they'll special assess the frontage, and that's another thing the city council would have to do is how you assess. Do you use, frontage? Do you use property value? Just whatever formula is determined will be determined by council members. Councilmember Lublin, you've witnessed a few of those assessments through the years, have you not?
I am aware, sure.
Isn't it by footage?
You can decide how to do it. Generally, it's the front footage.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. My experience is the front footage is what does it. So the people who have the front footage, it gets really tricky for the business that's on the corner. So because they got front footage and all of that. But then again, if that's not the sidewalk you're fixing, if we're talking about acquiring property from people, the very people who we have to fix it are the ones that own the property who wouldn't fix the sidewalks to begin with. That's the irony of it. The very people who are complaining wouldn't fix the sidewalks. And it's an interesting kind of discussion. So those people who wouldn't fix their sidewalks made the complaint, but they also won't give, they won't fix it. Recommended that the mayor give grant money to do sidewalks, and they use it for something else. So it's kind of interesting what's going on down there. But we're going to have to fix it. That's coming, and that's coming whether the DDA votes for it or the city council votes for it. But we expect that that's coming from the report, and if we don't do something with it, then it'll come from a judge, which I would rather do through the city council. So anyway, we beat that to death. Nobody likes a special assessment district.
Hey, for the record, being a business owner downtown, I'm willing to do whatever it takes as long as the other businesses step up. I'm always you know.
Interestingly, you guys are downtown, and two of you have business frontage. Two members of this board have business frontage.
So,
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's not likely we're going to be able to get grants to fix that kind of activity. There may be a nickel and dime approach to that, but I doubt it. I mean, I was pretty stunned when Ms. Jakeway reported back what they did. They were leveling, they were doing that, and they didn't just stop in front of, the insurance guy's place or your place. They were all over. They were on the other side. They were out in Pontiac. They were measuring how high the button was to push it, the plates that are not there. I mean, they were all over it. So they're going to come back with an interesting report.
It's very
We'll see.
sticky.
Huh?
It gets very sticky.
Yeah, you probably have to deal with that. Do they come in and somebody complains?
No.
Your business is right in the middle of that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right,
Mr. Chairman? A few years ago, Bennett was involved with it. We did a study of that down there and did a schematic and even had the engineers look at it and conform it to the ADA. So I still have those. I don't know if you do or not.
I do as
I don't know
well.
if it's any help or
Through the
not.
Urban Design Committee.
that's the one
Urban
case.
design.
whatever you've got that we don't have, we'll take it. We'll take a look at it.
Ramp.
Yes, yes.
Well, the report from the
Laws change.
investigator, it'll be a couple of weeks out, but we don't know. But I expect him to come back and say, do this, or we'll take you to court. And I would rather try to do it on our own than let it
Be
get
forced
into
to do
court. It gets costly when it goes into court.
I have a question on the Phase 2 of the beach.
Yep.
Wasn't that more cosmetic, like landscaping?
That's a fair statement, yes.
Wow. And it's, that's
Well-
outrageously expensive.
Because we can call it cosmetics, that's why we're going to slow it down and see what we can do in-house,
Right.
at least the beginning, until we can find sources of funding or whatever. One of the other issues downtown, again, it keeps coming up, as you might as well mention it, the beach. The beach is originally was funded, or some time ago, some of you were around when they got the grant. And once they took the grant money to redo the beach some years ago, then there's a prohibition of any commercial activity. And what we now have is we have the neighboring property that's created a commercial activity on our beach. And it went from being in their parking lot to where people would walk out of their parking lot around and come to the beach. And then they opened up their gate, so they put a gate up, so they're running a business from the property on their beach. And then now when you go down, literally yesterday, they're running a commercial enterprise on our beach, which has to stop. If you're a DDA member for a long time, you remember that was all prohibited. You couldn't do that. And they're encroaching now. I mean, they're quite literally setting up out on the beach and renting the paddle boards. I'm sure the guy's a nice guy, but somebody's getting paid. They're set up on the Tiki Bar's property. They had to put a special gate in because it was fenced and they couldn't do that. And so they fixed that, but then they just keep going further. So they're quite literally on the beach now, and that's going to take it. We're going to have to take action on that probably this summer, and it's not going to make people happy. But if we don't do that, then we'll have a whole commercial activity going on the beach, and it turns into something that's prohibited, and we have to deal with it. So.
Moving forward, do we want to discuss the DDA bylaws?
In front of you, you handed out I think it's got a blue copy, it's got a blue heading on it. I want you to all take a look at it so that we're having this discussion. This is the most recent publication about the DDA Act. There's been several of them through the years, and when we get further along, you'll take a look at our code, which Ms. Jakeway has copied for you so that we know that each one of you has a copy of the code book. So that copy is from the code book, which has all of the ordinances that has ever been passed about DDA all the way back to when it was created. And what it shows you in the code is the current state of the law as the city council has passed it. This document shows you what they did in 2018. They repealed some of the act, and they changed the enabling act for DDAs to 57 of 218. That simply means they updated it, but that act itself ratifies the ordinances that already existed. So some of the sites in our code, which refers to the old DDA Act, have been amended. So this I would suggest you take a look at, so it gives you an idea of where we are now. As a DDA member, I don't recommend you try to memorize the entire statute. It's what, how many pages, 120? Yeah, okay, so what you need to know as a DDA member, the new members, some of you have been around a while, you already know, hasn't changed that much. Back and forth, they've adjusted. I think at one point, the city manager was not the executive director, and they had a different executive director and managing director. That's all internal stuff that you can do, the city can do, the city council can do. So what you have in front of you, second to that one-pager, which is very useful, by the way, is a copy of the code book. Again, the code book will cite to everything you need to know as a board member about the DDA. And it's still valid and been ratified by the newest statute. The history notes are useful. They cite to some sections that have been repealed, but that's how we got to where we are. So if you look at the finding on page 1 of that, it'll talk about the finding, and it just tells you that's why we needed a DDA and the discovery on that. The most useful part for each of you is the board membership. It requires the oath of office. If you go to page 3, it talks about meetings, rules, and it talks about your authority as a DDA member. In other words, what it is you do as a member. It's more than just coming here. The DDA has tremendous authority to do things if they have the money. But this ordinance is something that the city council passed in a whole series of ordinances which get codified in the code book. That's the code of ordinances. So if you take a look at this, it'll talk about what your role is as a voting member. It talks about the size. I'm going to recommend that each of you take a look at the part where it talks about the size of the DDA board. Under the state law, you can be anywhere from 9 to 12. We may want to talk about whether we really need to be that big. It's hard to fill the spots when people resign or move on. So that's up to this council, the city council, to decide ultimately, but they can change that. They can make it a little bit smaller. They can't make it smaller than 9, 8 plus the mayor.
So we should all really make ourselves familiar with this.
That's really why I want to make sure that all the new members have a copy of it, so I can say, we gave you that copy, that's what this meeting's about. We gave you this code so that it shows the current state of the law. It doesn't mean it can't be changed. You might want to look at it and say, hey, can we do that? There's several ordinances that we need to change for improving downtown business. But this is about the board itself, what your powers are, what your duties are. It talks about who's the DDA chairman. It says in the ordinance the chairman is elected, and then you have certain officers. They don't have to be board members. Or it also prohibits either of you from serving as executive director or hiring your friends or your family members or me or whatever. So read the whole thing. If you get into 120 pages, you're not going to read it. But if you read this code, you'll know what your job is here.
That kind of breaks it down.
So this code is the Walled Lake, it's a summary of our code that is in our bookkeeping.
It is the current state of the law. The city is enabled by the state statute to create a DDA. The state statute does not create a Walled Lake DDA. It gives the city council the authority to create by ordinance. City council, all the way back to 99. Wendell, were you on it to start with? Way back when? Way back to 99, they said we want a DDA, and it had to do with extending Maple, the extension, I believe, and that's the history of it.
91.
Okay, 91, is it 91? Thank you, Bennett.
81.
That's when it all started.
The point is, the statute enables, it didn't create it, it enabled it.
Right.
But it puts limitations on how you run a DDA board and how you run a DDA authority. So the city council then passed an ordinance then. But they're not bound forever by the ordinance. So they've improved the ordinance, they changed it, they've adjusted the ordinance within the boundaries of the state law. And if you really, really want to get deep into it, you can grab a hold of the state law and see how that compares with our ordinance. But the word ordinance has to do with that individual change they made, let's say in 2007, 2008, 2012. That gets codified, and we send it off, and it turns it into the current state of the law. So the code book, we call it code book, seems simple, but it's a code of ordinance, meaning this is the current state of the law. It's not an ordinance. It's a code of ordinances that has been codified so that we know, if you take an ordinance, you had a copy of an ordinance. If we brought you the ordinances, it gets really confusing. Well, if this thing's been repealed, it's still a copy of what was passed, but it was repealed. What you have before you is the current state of law. So this is still in effect until it's changed. It doesn't mean it's perfect. Maybe we need to change stuff. But this is the current state of the law, and that's the point we're trying to make. We wanted to bring this to you so that each member of you, we can say, we gave you the current state.
We're all up to speed.
Yeah, well, it's a little reading, it takes a lot, but if you know where to look, and we just showed you, the last thing you need to look at is the state statute, but the fact is you may do that. You'll find out a lot about how cities do business. The state law doesn't require it to be exactly, we took the city council, even before I got here, they interpreted their way, and it's within the law. Bottom line is, the DDA here is to improve downtown development and improve businesses. That's what it is. But it gets deeper into financing and all that kind of stuff. And I think I'm going to ask Mr. Lublin one more time to give us that lesson on why we really have a DDA nowadays. It's because we capture...
Well, we capture back the county, what the county would normally receive when we all pay our taxes is funneled back to the community, to our city. And that's about it's 180,000. If we were to do a new DDA today, they've changed the rules on the new DDAs that they don't give as much back. The county was, I guess, more generous back in 91, and they have since taken, they don't give you the same percentage.
Got it.
Right. And if we were to end this DDA and try to do it again, all those funds go away, and it's about 175 to 200,000 a year.
Yeah, there was a movement some years ago to abolish the DDA because people thought that it was not worthy of keeping alive. I personally disagreed with that. I mean, look, the DDA is a component unit to the city council, but it's very useful. We're capturing that extra money. And from where I sit, even before I was the executive director, where I sit, it's all city money. And if we're fixing downtown, it's the same thing as fixing the subdivision. We still need that, and there was extra money. The only issue was if you're spending more money in the DDA on staff and toys and parties and festivals, and you're not doing development, then maybe it's time to move ahead. But we didn't do that. This group, they tightened the belt, and we saved some money, and we were able to fix some stuff downtown that if the DDA hadn't have done that years ago, you wouldn't have been able to do. But somebody would be paying for that because it was beginning to collapse, and we still have issues. But the DDA tightened the belt. We did different. Very little is coming out of the DDA side in terms of salaries and stuff like that. So it's been a long time since we paid salaries out of DDA. But the DDA did its job, and they're committed to improving our gateways and downtown. So you might even want to take a look and see what should be included in the DDA district. We haven't run into that issue where you want to spend money that's out of your district, but we were able to find a way. Well, that's part of the gateway. But as a board member, you're allowed to take a look at it and say, look, we can change this, we can adjust. We can make minor changes. What Councilmember Lublin said is true. If we abolish it and start all over, the rules change, we get less money, and it probably wouldn't be worth doing. Because we're still getting the tax money. We're just not getting what would go to the county if we abolish it. So having said all that, I think we can move on. I don't know that there won't be any questions. Take a look at the bylaws and stuff that you got, but start off with the ordinance, the code of ordinances. And if you have questions about why we got to where we are, we can bring a history lesson in. Read the one-page pamphlet, and then when you get into tax increment financing, that gets pretty
sticky.
too. Yeah, it gets complicated.
No, it doesn't.
The,
It's real simple.
It's a little more complicated, but the deal is the DDA's first role is to develop downtown development authority. It's not to throw parties necessarily or any of that, but we can't stop doing that either. The DDA is supporting a farmer's market, the festivals and all that. We're going to keep doing that along with the city. It's been a few good years, and it's worked out well for us, and this board has supported that, led by Councilmember Ambrose. We got a lot done.
Absolutely.
We got done. Dave, you've
Casey
made-
had a lot of foresight.
You've made the city walkable, you fixed some of the roads, and this all was because of the DDA had the foresight to do that in the last several years.
And it was, Wendell was an important part, John Marshall. I mean,
Well, when
there
I
was a
talk about
team.
this board, that's who I'm talking about. These
Yeah.
guys have been here from the beginning, you know. Eddie, were you on in the beginning, the very first one? You came later.
I came a little later,
Yeah.
like around 97, 98.
Wendell, you may be the original. Are you one of the
The
original?
OG.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it was.
maybe, I don't know. It's here when it started.
Well, we got a lot done through the DDA. There were times when it wasn't as good as it is now or was, but we're pretty proud of what the DDA got
The
done.
city has come a long way.
Our prime objective back then was Maple Road extension,
Exactly.
you know, which we got done, so it was a
And that was
big deal.
hundreds of thousands a year.
Yeah.
That was a
Big time.
20-year debt, approximately that.
I was right there in the middle.
Yes, you were.
What else we got, Ms. Jakeway?
The warrant, but that's all
Well, Then
on.
I'm not going to say much more then.
There we go. I need a motion to accept the June warrant.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
I like that.
Okay.